Hi, my name is Catherine Leslie. I'm here to teach you multiplying rational expressions. So there's two different kinds of rational expressions. First, you have a monomial. Now, a monomial is something that doesn't have any addition signs or subtraction signs. So, for instance, a monomial equation might look like this. That's a monomial equation because it doesn't have any addition signs or subtraction signs in the equation. Now, the next kind is called a polynomial. And a polynomial is something that does have addition and subtraction signs. So, for instance, this is a polynomial. So we have monomials and polynomials are the two different kinds of equations that we're going to be working with today. So I'm going to start with monomials. Now, there's two different kinds of ways you can solve a monomial equation. The first way is you can reduce first. And the second way is that you can multiply first. Now, I'm going to use that same equation and I'm going to show you how to do both ways. So, our equation was 6x cubed over 4xy times 8y cubed over 9x squared. Now, I'm going to start with the reduce first. So, what happens is step one is you cross cancel. Now, this is what happens when you cross cancel. Since these two numbers and these two numbers can be reduced, I'm going to cross cancel. So you take that out and you can take a 4 out, so you're left with 1 and 2. And I can take a 3 out of these, so I'm left with 2 and 3. Now, I'm done reducing for now, so I'm going to multiply and simplify. Now, 2 times 2 is 4, x to the cubed, y cubed, over 3. And since we have an x over here and an x squared over here, you add the 1 that's right here and the 2 right there, so you get x cubed y. Now, I'm going to reduce. Since we have x cubed and x cubed on the top and bottom, that means they cancel out. So we're left with just 4. And since there's 1 y on the bottom and 3 y's on the top, I'm going to take this y and move it to the top. So it's 4y squared over 3. And that's the final answer. So, now I'm going to show you the second way that we can do this. So, the second way that we can do this is you multiply everything first. So basically you're taking the second step and putting it first. So, again, we have 6x cubed over 4xy times 8y cubed over 9x squared. So I'm going to multiply these across first. So 6 times 8 is 48, x cubed, y cubed. And 4 times 9 is 36, x cubed, yes, x cubed, y. Now, we're going to simply reduce from here. So, what goes into 48 and 36? That would be 12. So if I divide both of these by 12, I'm left with 3 on the bottom and 4 on the top. Now, we have x cubed and x cubed. Obviously, those cancel out. And then we have 1y down here and 3y's up here. So we're going to move this y up here. So we're left with 4y squared over 3. So that's the 2 different ways that you can solve a monomial. Now I'm going to show you some other examples. Okay, so my first example problem. We have 6x cubed y over xy squared times 3x squared y over 8x cubed. Okay. Since this one's fairly straightforward, I'm just going to multiply it across first. So, 6 times 3 is 18. x3 and x2, we're going to get x to the 5th, and then y squared. Now, on the bottom, we have 8x to the 4th, y squared. So, now I'm going to reduce. So, what goes into both 8 and 18 is 2. So, we reduce these and we get 4 and 9. So, and since there's 5 x's on the top and 4 on the bottom, we're going to move the 4 up to the top. So we're left with 9x. And since there's y squared and y squared on the top and bottom, those cancel out. So we're left with 9x over 4. And that's the final answer for that equation. My next equation is two x to the 4th over x to the 5th times 6x over x to the 3rd times x over 4. So, since we have the 2 and the 4, I'm going to reduce first to make it easier to multiply. So, first I'm going to reduce the 2 and the 4. So we're left with 1 and 2. And then since we have a 2 down here and a 6 up here, I'm going to reduce again, which leaves me with 1 and 3. So, our new equation is x to the 4th over x to the 5th times 3x over x to the 3rd times x over 1. So, if we condense this down, it's going to be 3x. Since we have x to the 4th and x and an x, it's going to be 3x to the 6th. 3x to the 6th over, we have 8 x's down here. So, since we have 6 x's up here and 8 x's down here, I'm going to move the 6 x's down, so we're left with 3 over x squared. And that's the final answer. Okay, now I mentioned that there was another kind of rational expression, and that's what we call a polynomial. Now, the difference between a monomial and a polynomial is that polynomials have addition and subtraction signs. So, there's 4 easy steps to follow when you're dealing with polynomials. The first step is to check to see if it's in standard form. second step is if the equation is negative, you need to factor out a -1 to make it positive. Now, what I mean by that is if you have like a -3x plus x squared, well, you need to get that x squared, or never mind. If you have a -x squared plus 3x, you have to get rid of that negative sign. So what you're going to do is factor out a -1. So when you have that -1 out here, you have a positive x squared, and then you factor out a -1 here, so it'd be minus 3x. So that's what I mean by that. Now, the third step is to factor all the expressions, if it's possible. And then after you've done that, the last step is to cross cancel so that you can simplify. Now, I'm going to show you an example of this. So, I have x squared minus x minus 6 over x squared plus x times x plus 1 over x minus 3. Now, I'm gonna go through all the steps to solve this. Now, the first step is to check to see if it's in standard form. These are all in standard form because none of them are switched around, like the one equation I showed you over here. Now, none of them are negative. None of the x squares are negative, so we can skip down to the third step. Now, I can factor most of these. So I'm going to go ahead and factor. So the first one on the top here is x plus 2, x minus 3 over x plus 1 times x plus 1 over x minus 3. Now, it says factor, or it says cross cancel. Now, what I mean by cross cancel is you can't go through and say, oh, there's an x here and an x here, so I can cross cancel. This is one whole entire unit by itself, this x plus 2. That's why we put parentheses around it. You can't just factor out the x to the 2. It has to be the entire thing. So, I'm going to look through here. There's an x minus 3 and another x minus 3. So I can cross cancel these two. And then we have an x plus 1 and an x plus 1. So I can cross cancel those two. And the resulting equation is x plus 2 over x. And that's the answer. Now, I'm going to show you several examples. Okay. So, my first example is x squared minus 8x plus 16 over 36x times 6x over x minus 4. So, it's already in standard form, and none of them are negative, so I can skip down to that third step. So, the third step was to factor everything. So, I can factor this one, and we get x minus 4 over 36x times 6x over x minus 4. Now, we can factor all of these, so we can get rid of these x minus 4 and this x minus 4, and then we can reduce this. So 6 and 36, we're left with 1 and 6x. So we just have the x up here. Now, we're left with x minus 4 over 6x. Now since there's an x down here and an x down here, we can factor those. So we can get rid of this x and we can get rid of this x. So our resulting equation is x minus 4 over 6. And that's the answer to that equation. Now, the second equation is x plus 2 over 3x plus 2y times 9x squared minus 4y squared over 2x squared plus x minus 6. Now, since we have both x's and y's in this equation, it's a little bit more complicated, but we can still factor. So, the next step, since they're already in standard form and there's no negatives, again, we can skip down to that third step. So, we have x plus 2 over 3x plus 2y times, now we can factor this into 3x and 3x, and both of those are going to be 2y and 2y, and then we have a plus and a minus. And then the bottom one is 2x and x, and 3 and 2 and minus and plus. So now we can cross cancel. So we have a 3x plus 2y and a 3x plus 2y, so we can get rid of those two. And then we have an x plus 2 and an x plus 2, so we can get rid of those ones. And our leftover equation is 3x minus 2y over 2x minus 3. And that's the equation for that problem. Now, I have one more thing that I want to talk to you guys about. Sometimes you're going to come across equations that contain x cubed. Now, some of them won't be factorable, but there is a certain circumstance where you'll come across an equation that might look like this. X cubed minus 8. Now, we all know that 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2, is equal to 8. So, the resulting thing we have here is both of these are cubed. Now, there's certain equation that you can use for the sums and differences of two cubes. Now, the first equation we have is a cubed plus b cubed. So if you have, let's say this was x squared plus 8, that's a cubed plus b cubed is equal to a plus b times a squared minus ab plus b squared. And that's the equation you can use to solve that. Now, this is the sum equation. The difference equation is when you have a cubed minus b cubed. So just like if this was x cubed minus 8. And that one is a cubed minus b cubed is equal to a minus b times a squared. A minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. Now, I know that's a lot of information, so I'm going to show you some examples. Now, one example is obviously x cubed plus 8. Now, since I know both of these are cubes, I'm going to split it down into this equation. So, since we have, this is a and this is b, so we have x cubed plus 2 cubed is equal to x plus 2 x squared plus minus 2x, excuse me, plus, and then we have b squared, and 2 squared is 4. So, a cubed plus b cubed is equal to a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. And that's the equation that I would substitute on the top of the thing. Now, the next one I'm going to show you is a difference of two cubes equation. So, let's say I had x cubed minus 125. Now, 125 is a cube. So, the cube, we have a and b. So the cube of 125 is 5. Because 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 is 125. So, we have x cubed plus 5 cubed is equal to x plus 5, x squared plus 5x plus 25. That's a minus, I'm sorry. X cubed, a cubed minus b cubed is equal to a minus b times a squared plus b, that's ab plus b squared. So, what would happen with the sum and difference is you might see an equation like this. X cubed plus 8 over x squared minus x minus 6. So, and it would be multiplied by something. But if you just want to look at this side, you factor in that equation. So, since we know that 2 cubed is 8, we have x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4, since 2 squared is 4, over x plus 2, x minus 3. And then you'd be able to factor from there. So and then you can try to factor this one again. Most of the time it won't be factorable, but you'll end up with an answer that has that in there. So that's all you need to know about multiplying rational expressions. So go ahead and try the problems that are on the website, and I hope this helped. Thanks.